How's it going, guys? My name is Stone, and welcome back to these reviews, or welcome if it's your first time here. Today I'm going to be talking about the debut album of Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Freak Out. Now, this album is generally known for being one of the first concept albums and rock double albums of the 60s, and consists of elements of doo-wop, psychedelic rock, and avant-garde. It combines them in a way that's so far ahead of its time that it would actually be an influence to the Beatles when making Sgt. Pepper. For this being released in 1966, though, Zappa was definitely ahead of the curve when it came to predicting the hippie culture rising in popularity and creating a genre that, of course, we talk about all the time here, which is psychedelic rock. And I understand why some may not disagree with me when I say this. May not agree with me when I say this, but I definitely find the first few albums by the Mothers of Invention to be very psychedelic, or undeniably psychedelic. Whether he meant it as a joke or not, his mockery of the genre, as well as his avant-garde influences, create a very comedic psychedelic rock experience, I'd say, that is even done better than bands who take themselves seriously, which I find very funny, and really just shows that even when Zappa's making fun of something, he knows how to compose it very well, or compose very funny music, I guess. Which, I mean, this thing is definitely hilarious if you pay attention to the lyrics, which I say really keeps the concept of this album going. It begins with Hungry Freaks Daddy, which is a fierce rocker that really tosses you into this record. It keeps a nice groove going along and provides some thought-provoking lyrics, which of course Zappa is known as one of the many things Zappa is known for, I should say. Whether he's criticizing politics or religion, or just American culture. It's followed up, well, I should say though, I don't want to just go straight over it, but I am a big fan of Hungry Freaks Daddy. I think it's a great opener, like I said. I love the guitar solo and the way Zappa sings this song. I like how it just sounds like he's yelling the lyrics almost, which I think, I don't know, I think it works. It's followed up by I Ain't Got No Heart, which is a song that became a concert staple for him. I also find the song to be very catchy with very tight, with a very tight rhythm section and great use of horns. I also love how it just explodes towards the end of the song. It really gives you a hint of what this album will turn into later on, and especially on the next track, which is easily one of my favorite songs from Zappa, the Mother's Invention, whatever. Who Are the Brain Police? This track for me is just one of the best psychedelic rock songs of the 60s. It just evokes such an overwhelming and hallucinogenic atmosphere, and I imagine at the time this was released, this would have probably knocked someone's socks off if they were listening to it on acid, or even if you were just a Christian mom being appalled by this crazy music. I really love everything about this track, honestly. Like, from the evil sounding melody to the section where everyone kind of freaks out, in my opinion, where everyone's screaming, "I'm gonna die," and just a bunch of random, like, blaring noises that, I don't know, it's just a real psychedelic collage of chaos that I'd say challenges what one can do with rock music, especially in the 60s. Like, even hearing this song now, you would definitely, maybe it wouldn't be as innovative, but it would definitely raise some eyebrows, which, I don't know, Frank Zappa, of course, is great at doing when it comes to making crazy-ass music. The album then transitions into a fantastic doo-wop song called Go Cry on Somebody Else's Shoulder, which has some really good singing by Ray Collins, and I really enjoy the sarcasm running through the lyrics. Again, I find that the sarcasm and the humor throughout the lyrics of this entire record, or this entire album, keep the concept of silly American life running through the album greatly, or at least him criticizing the little problems that people have, like I Ain't Got No Heart is an example. Then comes Motherly Love, which is a track that I wasn't too fond of at first, but I've grown to like more over time. I do think the chorus is a bit repetitive, but that's what gives the track its charm. and plus it still gets stuck in my head to this day. So it does its job. I mean, of course, the lyrics are referencing motherly love, as in like the love they provide to groupies. But if you were not aware of that, you might think it's talking about something else. Oops, let me fix that. But yeah, it's a great try. I like how rocking it is, much like Hungry Freaks Daddy, and like I said, it's just a very good track. Not all these songs are really anything like bad, except the one I'm about to talk to now, which is the closer on side one. Yeah, definitely my least favorite on disc one, which is How Could I Be Such a Fool. It's another doo-wop track, but for me, it doesn't really have anything going on for it. It's kind of lackluster, and there's not any catchy melody whatsoever, or is there anything worth, like, nothing freaky about it either. So, it doesn't do anything for me, but I'd say it's one of those tracks that I skip. Oh, I don't skip, actually, unless I don't listen to it on its own. I listen to it whenever I'm listening to the album in whole. So yeah, I mean, it's not a skippable track, though. Like, it's not that bad. But overall, on my opinion on side one is that it's a very strong side that continues very well into side two. Side two opens with probably one of the catchiest songs on this entire album, Wowies Alley. The song definitely sounds like it had potential to be a single, if it weren't for the outrageous lyrics like, I don't even care if you shave your legs, I don't even care if you brush your teeth. I don't know what he says at this part, but it sounds like he's saying, I don't care if your dad's a he, which makes me think, like pronouns and all that, which I'm sure that he probably wasn't referencing that, but the music of this song, disregarding the lyrics, is very lighthearted and happy sounding. I'd say it's the happiest sounding song on Freak Out, and one of my favorites from the first disc. Side 2 continues with another doo-wop influenced song, You Didn't Try to Call Me, which is fantastic, and it grooves along very nicely and has an excellent moment of build-up towards the end of the bridge, into the final chorus. You'll probably know what I'm referencing to if you've heard the song, but yeah, another great track. It's hard to really describe all these songs different from each other, but I'm a big fan of the first disc especially. We then get to Anyway the Wind Blows, which is an incredibly catchy pop song, which, thinking about it now, of all the songs on the first disc, this could have been a great single, only because the lyrics are a little more easy on the listener, or an average listeners, and I don't know, anyone could really pick up what he's trying to talk about. He talk about, like, anyway the wind blows, like, whatever happens, whether I meet a girl or not, whatnot. I think this song is actually talking about, if I look at my notes, aka the liner notes, is a song I wrote about 3 years ago when I was considering divorce. If I had never gotten divorced, this piece of trivial nonsense would have never been recorded. Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely look into this record more after I go through the review, but yeah, basically it's him talking about his divorce and whatnot. And it's a very silly song, kind of childish in a way. Not saying it's childish music like the way it's composed, but like I said, it's easy for anyone to get into, and it's very catchy, of course, one of my favorites. A lot of favorites on this, clearly, but I'm Not Satisfied is another great rocker that seems to mock the Rolling Stones, in my opinion, not only in the title, but in the way that it's sung. I feel like I could totally imagine Mick Jagger strutting and dancing to the song on stage. I feel like just because the bluesiness overall of this track really gives it some momentum and power, and that Rolling Stones feel, so it's another favorite of mine. It's a fan favorite. All of these tracks on side one are really good though, but I feel like if I had to pick one that was my favorite on side two, it would be the closer, which is You're Probably Wondering Why I'm Here. I just absolutely love how melodic this song is musically, and yet how absurd the lyrics are. There ain't anything crazy or too, like, I don't know, PG-13 or rated R or anything like that. They're just funny, and just little things like roll your car and say gee whiz. Just little lines like that I get a kick out of. And like I said, it's just very catchy, and it's got some momentum to it, like I'm Not Satisfied. Overall, the first LP on Freak Out is very accessible, especially for the second side, and a great collection of psychedelic, comedy rock, if that's a thing. I mean, Zappa made it. However, like I've already said, think about it now. From this point on, the record does get a lot more experimental, and I can imagine buying this album on release. You hear the first record, you're like, all right, this isn't so bad, and then you get to the third side, and then you're like, what's going on here? And speaking of this third side, it's actually, if I had to pick out of the four sides of this record, it's definitely my favorite, only because it perfect balance of melodic songwriting and psychedelic mayhem that Zappa knew how to conjure up so well. It starts off with the heavy blues rock track Trouble Every Day, which is most known for its lyrics criticizing the Watts riots and the racial tensions that had been boiling up to at that point in the 60s. Of all the normal songs on Freak Out, I know it's kind of a loose term, but songs with chorus, verse, this song definitely is the strongest musically and lyrically, in the sense that it really shows Zappa's point of view on all this. And again, I feel like Zappa does have a lot to say when it comes to politics and religion, and even on his first studio album, I guess not his own, but Zappa's just bringing up some really good points, I guess, talking about how the news covers all this, almost like they're only trying to get money out of it, and just black and white discrimination, I know is what he says. Or, I forgot. I don't want to get too much into the politics of it, not because I'm trying to share my politics on here, but I do think it's a very strong song lyrically, and I think that it's definitely relatable to the times today. Like, if you play the song to someone recently, based on the last few years we've had, it wouldn't stray too far from the truth, in my opinion. But overall, musically, like I said, it's a strong-ass song, and one of my favorites easily. The sense of madness that the title implies, however, really begins after this track with Help 'Em a Rock. Now, Help 'Em a Rock's originally has three pieces to it, but they made the third piece its own track, that being It Can't Happen Here. Now, I'll be just talking about Help 'Em a Rock, considering it as the only two parts to it, as for the last track being its own thing. But Help 'Em a Rock is a fantastic track, one of my favorites from Zappa's discography, or at least in the Mothers of Invention discography. It's just so bonkers, and I absolutely love it. Like, for me, what helps it is it has a rhythm section that keeps the simple but groovy riff going throughout it, so it makes it feel more like a song rather than just random ass noises and being avant-garde. I mean, it is avant-garde, but like I said, having that guitar riff, I think, and the drums going on, it really helps. So, I don't know, I just love how this song submerges you into this musical chaos that pokes fun at a genre that hadn't even been invented yet. Or not, sorry, not invented yet, but hadn't even grown popular yet. Because I know a lot of bands were getting more psychedelic in late '66, and if I'm correct, this album came out like early '66, so yeah, like I said, very far ahead of its time, making fun of stuff that hadn't even gone cool yet. I'm gonna pause real quick and turn this off, I think it's over. Alright, and what we just heard was the closer on the third side, which is the song I'm talking about. Now, It Can't Happen Here. Like I said, I consider this to be its own song only because, yeah, like I said, on later releases, they made it its own piece of music, or its own track. And for me, I do think it's a fitting ending to Help 'Em a Rock as well as Side 3, but it's not a favorite song of mine by any means. I do think that it really resembles like the come down of a high, or like an acid trip, in the sense that like Help 'Em a Rock is like, it's just getting higher, you start peaking, and then It Can't Happen Here, it's just like boom, like a massive headache, the trip's over with, you're coming down. And I only say that maybe because it feels kind of like a headache listening to it. I'm not saying like it's awful or it's bad, because I do like listening to this track, but there are times where I'm listening to it and I'm like, why am I still listening to this? This is not entertaining anymore, or at least like worth listening to. I do think, like I said, it lingers a bit, but I do find it very interesting still, and like I said, it's a great closer for Side 3. Now, side 4 has only one track and is what some might consider to be the title track of this album, or at least I do. And that is The Return of the Son of Monster Magnet, aka The Freakout. Excuse me. This, like I said, this is essentially the Freakout where Zappa puts a bunch of people in the studio to go crazy, whether it's playing some, just making weird ass noises basically, moaning, screaming, all that. And he records it, obviously makes it into this avant-garde piece. And from what I remember, this is only the percussion track, I guess, of the song. Like, he was gonna add guitar and bass, whatnot, but the record company was over him, spending money in the studio, doing all this stuff, so they just put it out as it is. Which is kind of a shame because I do think it's very interesting, but I wonder what he would have done with it if he had continued or had more time to add some more instruments to it. Because I feel like that would have made it a lot better. Now, I do see why some people would find this to be a disappointing conclusion to this record. Because as much insanity and experimentation is going on throughout it, for me, it doesn't have a lot of replay value just because it really loses my interest over time. I'll tell you, I listened to it right before starting this video, and I feel like I don't want to be bashing on it too hard because the first half of it is really good. I love how crazy it is, and I like the drumming. I feel like that's what helps this song in the beginning is that it has a rhythm section, it has something keeping the groove going along, much like Help I'm a Rock. But like I said, the song loses interest for me over time, especially when they lose the drums, and then especially when the voices get squeakier. It's just like, I don't know, for me it's just not worth listening to at that point, only because there's no bombastic ending, there's no ending worth, like, I don't know, getting excited about. Like, for me, something like Awakened by Yes or Supper's Ready by Genesis, like, those are perfect examples of endings that, like, make you want to sit through the whole thing. As for this, it really just feels like a drugged out freak out. Which, whether or not he intended it to be this way, of course we know it. He didn't want the track to just be like this. I do think it makes for some interesting music. I feel like hearing it now, at least, back in '66, it probably would have been way more innovative to some, but for me, it just doesn't do too much. But like I will say though, I do think it's a fine closer to this album in the sense that the album starts off pretty normal with some like humorous lyrics, and then it just gets crazier and crazier and crazier until you get to this song, which is just absolute madness. And though I seem like I was criticizing it, I do enjoy the piece overall, and I do think actually it's I don't know, a fine closer to this record. But all in all, Freak Out is an amazing concept album that not only laughs at psychedelic rock music and American culture, but foresees the wild amount of experimentation and trippiness that would be happening in rock music in the late 60s. With Frank Zappa being the composer that he was, it doesn't really surprise me that he would already uh, be so innovative at the start of his career. And like I said, it doesn't surprise me, and it only gets better and better the more you go through his records and the Mother's albums. I will say too, because I feel like I haven't been talking much about the band. I do find the early lineup of the Mothers to be really good. Of course, they're always fluctuating with members, but on this record, I really enjoy it, and kind of has like a garage rock feel to it. Except of course with the crazy psychedelic stuff going on, but I feel like it's a perfect line. Because, I mean, there's some, like I said, or as I reviewed on the channel already, there's some psych garage albums that I really like, and it does have that atmosphere with the production, at least. And I will say Jimmy Carl Black's drumming on this record is really good. I think it's super tight, and it does the job very nice. And, of course, I know people will say that Frank Zappa would do much better things after this record, and I do agree that this is not his best by any means, but I just really enjoy it, and I do think it's a fine psychedelic album to listen to for anyone who wants to get into Zappa. Because for me, I think this is a very accessible record. To give a little backstory, I tried listening to some of his earlier stuff, just kind of going randomly through his albums, and it's just it could be too intense for someone. Even for me, like who likes to challenge myself, it was nice to go find this record and see a starting point, I suppose, with some like goofy lyrics but accessible songs, and then getting into the craziness at the end of the record. So yeah, I highly recommend listening to it if you haven't already. My 5 favorite songs have to be, off the top of my head, Who Are the Brain Police, Trouble Every Day, Help 'Em Rock. Sorry, I'm blanking now because I want to be sure. Help 'Em Rock, Trouble Every Day, Who Are the Brain Police, Hungry Freaks Daddy, and then Wowies Alley. I think those would have to be my 5 favorite. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Well, alright, I'd love to hear your 5 favorite in the comments below, or just get some discussion going in the comments, because I absolutely love this record. And I'll show it off right now, if any of you guys are still watching. There's a first pressing I have of it, or an early pressing nonetheless. I only know that you could tell it's an early pressing when it has the freak out map spot, where you could like send something in and get a freak out map. Kind of showing you like places around LA. And it's a little, from what I have read about it, it's a little political. He's kind of like making fun of police or something like that. Don't count my word. I'm just kind of spreading rumors at this point. But, no, I'll definitely have to print a copy or try to send one in if it's not too late. But yeah, I love all the liner notes and all that. It's just so cool. The pictures of everyone, like Jimmy Carl Black, Frank Zappa, of course. All the, like, for me, as a music geek, it's awesome to see Frank Zappa kind of like go into detail about every track, except you're probably wondering why I'm here, which, thinking about it now, I'd probably switch up for Wowies Alley, because I like that track a lot. But yeah, I mean, Motherly Love is like right here he says, is a body commercial for the band. It is sung during live performances to advise the female audience of potential delights to be derived from social contact with us folks. Trivial poop. No, this is something else. I don't know. Kind of rambling on now, but it's just nice showing it off with you guys. What's gotten into you, Susie Cream Cheese? Anywho, kind of going off at this point, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. I don't know when I'll review them, but it'll be fantastic, I swear. Alright, bye.